If you want to get rich, you have to stop trying to look rich. And most people fall in the trap of trying to impress others, and it keeps them broke. The people who look rich often aren't. And the people who look poor, they're often the wealthiest people in the room. Back in my 20s, I was building my business, I was investing, and I was quietly stacking cash. But you'll never know it. So I drove a beat-up car, and I wore $6 t-shirts from Old Navy. And honestly, I liked it that way because no one could tell. And the crazy part was, people assumed that I was struggling, and I'll get comments like, hey man, so when are you gonna upgrade? Or are you doing okay? But behind the scenes, I was building freedom. I had no car payments, no lifestyle pressure, and no flex to maintain. And that's when it hit me. So most people aren't broke because they don't make money. They're broke because they're trying to look like they do. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why looking poor might be the smartest choice you'll ever make. Reason number 1, looking poor gives you a lot of leverage and freedom. The moment you stop trying to impress people is the moment you get your time, your money, and peace back. And most people upgrade their lifestyles the second they start making more money. They get a better car, they get a better apartment, they get designer clothes. But that's when they don't realize is they're just raising the bar for how expensive the life needs to be. According to a 2023 CNBC article, over 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and even for those making over $100,000 a year. Now think about that. Someone earning 6 figures might look like they've made it, but behind that scene, like they're just one emergency away from financial stress. Maybe they got a $4,000 mortgage, they got 2 car payments, daycare bills, their Netflix subscription, or their credit card debt from their treat yourself moments. So every time their paycheck hits, it's already spoken for. And for me, that's not freedom. When I chose to look poor, I drove my old car, I wore my $6 Old Navy t-shirts, I had margins, and I had breathing room. So one of the most popular frameworks people use to manage their money is called the 50-30-20 rule. And this was popularized by Senator Warren in her book, All Your Worth. So this is a simple way to organize your budget. 50% of your paycheck goes to your needs like rent, utilities, healthcare, groceries, transportation, and then 30% of that goes to your wants, wherever you want. So you can dine out, go to movies, shopping, traveling, things like that. And 20% of that, the most important one, goes to your savings or debt, like student loans, credit card bills, and most importantly, investing. So take, for example, someone making $4,000 a month, and they could allocate $2,000 to needs, $1,200 to wants, and about $800 to savings or debt. So you don't have to follow it perfectly, but even you just thinking in buckets like that, it's going to help you avoid lifestyle creep, and then you're going to stay intentional with your money. So I also build an emergency fund, and it gives me something that most people don't have is options. I didn't have to take on clients I hated. I didn't panic when my income dipped, but the freedom was underrated. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, Naval Ravikant, the founder of Angelus, one of the most respected entrepreneurs and investors in tech, once said, "Freedom is having options." And looking poor just gave me exactly that. So I had no pressure to keep up, no stress to impress, just space to think like long term, and then to build wealth quietly. Reason number 2, looking rich keeps you broke. So every time you upgrade your income, most people upgrade their lifestyle just to match it. So you get a raise, you buy a nice car. You get a house, you upgrade the apartment. You get a new job, you get new clothes. But the problem with that is once your lifestyle expands, it almost never comes back down, never shrinks back down. According to a 2022 CNBC article, they found that nearly half the Americans increase their spending right after they get a raise. So that includes eating out more, buying new clothes, upgrading their Netflix subscription, moving to a fancy, expensive apartment. And it's like once the money is already gone, the moment it arrives, now you're just stuck in a loop. So you earn more, you spend more, you run out of money, you work harder, you get promoted, you spend more, and it repeats. This cycle just kind of repeats again and again. And it feels like progress, but actually it's more like an expensive treadmill. So let me break this down. You get a raise, and let's say it's $10,000. You move into a better apartment, you upgrade your car because you can afford it now, and you start dining out more often because why not? And suddenly that raise is gone, and you're not saving anymore. You just have new obligations. So you work harder, you push for another promotion, and when you finally get it, you start to cycle all over again. And that's exhausting, and worse, invisible. So most people think they're leveling up, but they're just upgrading the cost of staying afloat. And this is considered the lifestyle inflation trap. As Dave Ramsey once put it, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have just to impress people we don't even like. So this isn't new, and there's actually a term for it. It's called the Diderot effect. Diderot is a French philosopher that once received a beautiful red robe, and suddenly everything felt like it wasn't good enough. So he upgraded his chair, his desk, his home, and he ended up in debt, just trying to match the feel of one upgrade. And that's what lifestyle creep does. You buy one nice thing, and the rest of your life feels outdated. Add to the pressure of keeping up with the Jonases, and it's no wonder most people feel stuck no matter how much they earn. And when you intentionally look poor, you're opting out that cycle. You keep that baseline low so your income can finally give you breathing room instead of giving you stress. So that's how you build real wealth. Not by chasing upgrades, but by keeping what really matters, your freedom. Reason 3, real wealth doesn't signal. Most people think that being rich means looking rich. Designer watches, fancy cars, luxury vacations. But the truly wealthy, they often look kind of regular. Take Mark Zuckerberg. He's worth billions of dollars, but he wears the same plain gray t-shirt almost every day. Why? Because he doesn't want to waste his energy deciding what to wear. And it's called decision fatigue. And billionaires guard their focus. Then there's Warren Buffett, one of the richest investors in the world. So he still lives in the same modest home that he bought in Omaha in 1958 for $32,000. He drives a regular car, he eats McDonald's, doesn't care about what anyone thinks. He's focused on just investing. And then there's Jeff Bezos. In his early Amazon days, he drove a Honda Accord, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he didn't need to prove anything. And that's what real wealth looks like. They're quiet, they're boring, and they're consistent. So let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a room full of corporate professionals, and they're all in suits. Everyone is dressed the same. Black shoes, navy blazers, a button-down shirt. But one person comes in and he's wearing a bright red sneakers. And at first, that seems odd, right? But then you realize everyone's looking at them and they stand out and they don't seem insecure about it at all. And that kind of signals nonconformity. Actually, it makes people assume that they must be really important and they don't need to follow the rules. And this is called the red sneaker effect. This 2014 study actually comes from a Harvard business professor by the name of Francesco Gino. Researchers found that people that stood out, like wearing red sneakers in a formal setting, they were often perceived as competent, confident, or high status. And why? Because breaking the rules often signal that they have the power or confidence to not care about what other people were thinking. And that confidence, it earns respect. When you look poor on purpose, like wearing basic clothes, driving an old car, you're doing the same thing. You're saying, hey, I don't need to flex. I know who I am. And ironically, that makes people respect you even more. So you're walking in $6 Old Navy t-shirts while stacking assets in silence. You're not falling behind. You're playing a longer game. Looking poor is just hiding your power in plain sight. Okay, reason number 4. Looking poor helps you think clearly. So when you look poor, you live simply, you dress simply, you spend simply, you free up mental energy. You're not worried about what other people are thinking. You're not stressing over every small choices. You're just focused. And that's clarity. That's underrated. And this is why so many of the wealthiest people in the world, they simplify everything. Zuckerberg's gray shirt, Jobs' black turtleneck. This is not laziness. This is a strategy. And it's called decision fatigue. So the more choices you make, the more your brain kind of burns out. There's also something called the paradox of choice. And it was coined by psychologist Barry Schwartz. And he found that when we have too many options, we actually feel way more anxious. We feel less satisfied. We have more regrets on our choices. This is why when you scroll Netflix for 30 minutes and you still feel like you chose the wrong show, there's just too many choices, and that creates stress, and the stress clouds your thinking. But when you live simply, the noise goes away. So you create space to think, to plan, and to build. And here's another insight called the IKEA effect. So when you build something yourself, like putting together a cheap table, you value it way more than if it was handed to you. And that's what living modestly does. It makes you proud of what you're building. It makes you grateful for what you have. And you're not just buying status, you're creating substance, you're creating value, right? So looking poor actually helps you think long term. It strips away distractions, it frees up your mind, it gives you clarity to focus on whatever builds wealth. So reason number 5, helps you invest in what actually matters. So every dollar that you spend trying to look rich is a dollar that you can't use to build a meaningful life. So when you stop chasing status and you start investing in what actually matters, like skills that increases your income, relationships that's going to make you feel alive, travel that expands your perspective, freedom to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. Now look at Ronald Reed's story. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant who lived in Vermont. He wore the same flannel shirts, he drove a beat up car, and he lived very modestly. And most people assumed he was dead broke. But when he passed away in 2014, the world found out. And he was quietly building a fortune of over $8 million. How? He lived way below his means. And he was investing consistently in stocks like P&G, Johnson & Johnson, and JP Morgan. He let time and compound interest to do the heavy lifting. He didn't flex. He didn't upgrade every time he got paid. He just focused on what actually builds wealth. And that's the power of looking poor. It creates margin. It gives you options and lets you pour money into your future instead of someone else's opinion. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers the watch you wore, but they're going to remember like how free you are, how deeply you connected, and how intentional you lived. I think I've shown you all the reasons why looking poor or just living below your means might be one of the smartest things you can do. It gives you a peace of mind, it keeps you out of comparison traps, and it frees you up to focus on what actually matters. That's freedom, relationship, long-term wealth. If you enjoyed this video, I think you're going to really like this one. And it's about why driving a beater will make you rich. You're probably going to agree with like things I say in that video. Check it out. Click it now. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.